Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money Channel. Well, it looks like XRP is on the ascent, guys. This is the XRP chart on the daily. Take a look at that trend today. Today is Monday, September the 8th, if you guys are watching on the day that I'm releasing this video. So what did we see from the end of June? This was June 22nd when we did dip down back to about $1.91 for one XRP. After that, guys, XRP did claim a new all-time high, $3.66. And that was in and around July the 17th, 18th here. And then we did see that slow decline. Okay, we did see a slow decline. And at that point, we saw XRP come back down to this level of resistance down in here. So that was forming what was looking like this bullish pennant pattern. And now, guys, it's looking as though we are breaking out of that. XRP is on the ascent. Hopefully, we can now start making some real meaningful new highs on the chart here. And as you guys can see, I've just switched it over to the hourly. You guys can see we did bottom out on Saturday. Then XRP really started to move here. And when we start to see these kinds of erratic, large candlesticks, large greens candlesticks to the upside, where we do see a lot of volatility with these large wicks, sometimes we'll see large tails as well. And when that is coupled with a lot of volume compared to what the volume was like for the rest of the week or for the few days leading up to that, that means that we are seeing, for whatever reason, a spike of activity, and it seems as though the volatility has re-entered the market. At this point now, XRP did come back down, so it did reach a high of 292, and it did come back down, retracing about 2.6% before starting another leg to the upside up here, making a brand new high here of about $2.95. So guys, this is where we are today, and this could be the beginning of the ascent for XRP. You guys can see down here also the volume is fairly large for today's candlestick. Now, comparing that to the rest of the crypto space, we're still in neutral territory. So XRP, although it's doing well, it's not necessarily the norm of what we're seeing, although we are seeing some cryptocurrencies breaking out. You guys can see Solana's up by 5.91%. Dogecoin's up 7.48. So some of these cryptocurrencies are in fact taking a bit of a swing. The entire market is up by 1.25% only, but we haven't seen altcoin season really pop off. In comparison, Bitcoin is only up by 0.78% or 0.79 as of the time of this recording, which brings me to this interesting metric. Tomorrow is September the 8th. So this was posted yesterday. Today is September the 8th. Why is that important for Bitcoin? September the 8th is consistently one of the worst days of the year for Bitcoin performance. On any given day, Bitcoin is up 53% of the time for typical gains of about plus 0.10. September the 8th is down 72% of the time of the typical losses of about negative 1.30%. This makes it the 7th worst day of the year. So what they're noticing here is that Bitcoin performance generally, and so it's not just the 8th of September. They've noticed it on other days as well, like the 21st and looks like the 23rd or 24th of September as well. This is Bitcoin performance since 2013. As you guys can see here, this is what we've seen for Bitcoin historically, generally a down day for the king crypto. So let's bring up Bitcoin right now. And as you guys can see, Bitcoin did also start a big move to the upside, but it did stall out. So this is the hourly chart. If we throw this on the daily, what are we noticing for Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is actually up. So is it bucking the trend today? I mean, there's still room for Bitcoin to fall. Of course, we're still early in the day today. This is typically, though, what we have seen. As I've talked about, too, on this channel, Bitcoin generally sees a negative September on the year of that final euphoric 4-year cycle phase. And for more information on where I think the crypto market is going, for this particular bull run, you can follow me at patreon.com/workingmoneychannel. I've laid out a complete strategy where where I think the crypto market is going, and I've laid it out for my Patreon subscribers. It is not financial advice. It is just what I'm doing, and we're bouncing ideas off each other over there. So patreon.com/workingmoneychannel. And again, I've rolled back prices. It is only $5 a month. So you got to subscribe and stay subscribed, though. Check it out if that's something you're interested in. Here's another metric that I'm going to be considering. 0 out of 30 bull market peak indicators have triggered yet. So 0 out of 30, this coming from Symbiote here on Twitter. Check this out. And I don't know what some of these even are. Bitcoin AHR 999 index. Okay, so that's only at 3.01. It's only at 24.75%. There's the pi cycle top, the Pule multiple. I know some of these. Bitcoin rainbow chart. Days of ETF net outflows. That's an interesting one. A fairly new one, I guess. ETF to Bitcoin ratio. So there's a few here, guys. We've got 11. over here, and everything is still suggesting that we are to hold our Bitcoin. Now, I wanted to bring this up. This is Bitcoin. What is it? Bitcoin or bull market peak indicators. And if you click on CoinGlass up here, and I'll link this in the description for you, you can have it in a live view here, and an interactive chart here with all our list here with all these different indicators here. There's 30 to choose from. So I will actually link this in the description of the video for you guys, because this is just a screen grab. But still wanted to thank Symbiote for pointing that out. 0 out of 30. So guys, we still have a lot of room for Bitcoin to rip. And again, according to four-year cycle theory, this is the final year and the final months moving into all-time highs. And you guys know where to follow me if you're interested in seeing what I'm doing and deciding where I'm going to be cashing out of some of these cryptocurrencies. So wanted to thank Symbiote there and Timothy Peterson for pointing that out. XRP Crypto Wolf, guys, also giving us another great indication that the crypto market is going to rock. 90% approval rating for an XRP ETF as of today or yesterday. And this is from Polymarket, I guess. Yeah, Polymarket data suggests 94% chance at press time. The odds of such a product being approved this year currently stand at nearly 94%. Bloomberg analysts recently reiterated that approval of XRP ETFs was nearly certain. So we're getting a lot of indications that this is coming, and there's no stopping it. This came after some suggested that anti-crypto Democratic Caroline Crenshaw could potentially prevent the approval of such products. But at this point, the approval of spot ETFs looks like it is a done deal. But the real question is whether or not they will accurately manage to attract enough demand. That is the big question here. There are some mixed views on this. I don't have any doubts that these ETFs are going to create some FOMO, I think, from institutions. But I mean, that's maybe just my biased opinion. While ETF analyst Nate Gerasi expects these ETFs to outperform market expectations, just like Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, there are some naysayers who are convinced that these products will actually expose the lack of institutional interest in XRP token, eventually causing its demise. So that's an interesting perspective there. I mean, maybe. I don't know though. The fact that such giants like BlackRock and Fidelity have not joined the much talked about XRP ETF race might be a bad omen for future demand. It is worth noting that Fidelity did file for a Solana-based ETF while ignoring XRP. So we still have not seen those big institutions jump on board for a filing for an XRP ETF. However, guys, we do have a lot of other ones that have decided to go the XRP route. Jungle Inc. posting this. What happens when XRP gets its ETF? Because there are, how many are there now? 17, 18, maybe even 20 now in the hopper waiting for approval. So he says if a spot XRP ETF is approved, institutional capital won't just give Wall Street exposure, it could fundamentally change XRP's market behavior. So another interesting perspective here. Look at what happened to Bitcoin after the launch of IBIT. So this is so we have Bitcoin as I guess a bit of a test case, This is the test case, right, where the BlackRock BTC ETF was approved, assets under management, and that was back late last year. And guys, this is what Bitcoin performance looked like. Shallower dips, although dips still did occur. And this is what the price of the ETF looked like for Bitcoin at that time. He says BTC price in yellow is still volatile, but the IBIT kept climbing even during every single dip. But we did see a dip also. So it has been mirroring it. The result, though, Jungle Inc. says BTC's drawdowns have been much shallower in the past cycle, no 50+% collapses. A constant inflow of capital has created a structural bid under Bitcoin. Institutional demand has reshaped BTC into a more mature, stable asset class. Now imagine XRP with the same tailwinds. Every dip met with institutional inflows, sticky capital that accumulates for long term instead of fleeing at volatility. I mean, the volatility is kind of where we find our where we make money. He's saying a new floor for XRP price and a shift from hype-driven cycles to sustainable Wall Street-backed growth. Maybe good for a long-term investment now, as opposed to a cyclical investment. BTC's ETF launch didn't just unlock demand, it transformed the market. An XRP ETF could do the same, rewriting the playbook for XRP's future. So he says the bottom line, XRP has already proven retail staying power. Add institutional flows and the story changes completely. So interesting to say the least for XRP. If we don't see these huge drawdowns for XRP, if we don't see the 50% drawdowns, there's no opportunity then to buy back in and then to make, that same kind of money moving up. Again, if you did buy back down in here back in April, and you weren't scared, bought at $1.61 and then sold at the new all-time high, guys, you would have made 125%. So this is where we make our money. Comparing that to what Jungle Inc. was saying Bitcoin did, despite him saying that 23 and 24 was we didn't see those types of drawdowns. I mean, we still kind of did. This was a minus 30%. So we did see a 30% drawdown for Bitcoin back earlier last year in March 2024. And even just recently, we did see another one down and around here, about 32% as well. So, there's the law of diminishing returns that we should also pay attention to, that we should also consider. Bitcoin might not be drawing down 60, 70, 80% anymore, but the law of diminishing returns suggests also, and this has always been the case for Bitcoin, that we're not going to see as many gains for Bitcoin as we have in the past. And that's just that. I think that is, whether we had the ETF or not, that would have been the case. Nevertheless, wanted to thank Jungle for that. But these ETFs are coming and the floodgates are about to open, and we have about 6 months, and 6 months starting from the time that they were listed, the time that they were starting to become under scrutiny by the SEC. This from Zafe Crypto here, an interview with James Seyfarth. Listen to this.
And it was like the SEC needs to come out with some like rules of the road of like, these are the assets that are like make sense to go into an ETF wrapper. Give these issuers some guidance. Like, what can I put in an ETF? Like, what's allowed? And our view was they were going to do it. And our view months ago was that one of the number one things was going to be to have a futures product, a futures contract listed with a CFTC regulated exchange. And that's what came out. So the SEC is working now with those issuers, with the exchanges to say, like, if you meet all these criteria, we'll allow you to list an ETF that holds this underlying asset. We don't need to get into too much specifics, but it comes into like surveillance sharing agreements and these different ISG organization that basically allows all these exchanges to share data with each other. But really, at the end of the day, the number one requirement is basically that you have a futures contract on an asset for at least 6 months with one of those futures exchanges that meets the requirements of the CFTC, SEC. And if you do that for 6 months, they're basically going to allow you to have an ETF, which immediately opens the gate for a whole bunch of different assets. So Coinbase Derivatives, that platform, is part of the ISG framework. So anything listed on Coinbase Derivatives with a futures contract for 6 months, theoretically, once this framework is approved, or if it's approved as it's currently, there's going back and forth. Like as you saw with the Bitcoin ETFs and Theory ETFs, it's the issuers exchanges going back and forth with the SEC. And that's what they're doing with this framework. Theoretically, the earliest it could be approved is sometime, I think it's like September 19th. I wouldn't hold my breath for that, but that's where things are headed. But we have a whole bunch of ETFs due under the old process starting in like early October. So essentially, they're going to theoretically open the floodgates once these platforms open these assets for futures contracts.
So it could be that the floodgates open and, there's now a very specific, mechanical way to analyze these ETFs. 6 months futures, then spot approval. So basically Coinbase listings in ISG framework. We're looking at September 19th to October. That could spark the fire, guys. And that is essentially along the timeline for Q4 2025, where we're going to see the most activity. We also got news that Morgan Stanley has recognized Ripple payments as an alternative to SWIFT. Now, I didn't actually see the linked article here. I wanted the source, and a lot of people here are looking for the source as well. There's no source to this, but somebody did. It was Costa Rica Kelly. She did post an overview here from AI, and AI scours the internet. Based on recent financial analyst commentary, Morgan Stanley considers a Ripple-like payment system a leading alternative to the SWIFT network. So not necessarily them saying that Ripple payments is going to replace SWIFT, but they have gone on the record in the past, and they have said a Ripple-like payment system, a leading alternative to the SWIFT network for international transactions. Well, this is significant specifically for the technology. Morgan Stanley is not a direct investor or partner in Ripple. And then it gives Morgan Stanley's analysis of Ripple. A 2025 analysis attributed to Morgan Stanley and cited in academic publications highlighted the potential of Ripple's technology. But the report noted that Ripple-like payment systems, so not actually naming Ripple specifically. Of course, they talk about the faster and cheaper transactions, improved transparency, and lower fraud risk. And then the alternative to SWIFT. A report positioned Ripple and its XRP digital currency as a potential alternative to the aging SWIFT network. So I wish we had a little more information on that. However, still very positive news. I feel like, a lot more of these banks are getting on board with this. And because banks realize the potential for certain digital assets, of course, the list is huge. They're not looking at all of them and painting them all with the same brush anymore as they used to. Now, some of these financial institutions, whether it's a bank or other financial institutions, they are looking at which cryptocurrencies are going to solve problems, which ones are going to be in high demand in the future. And, then they make the decision, okay, well, we should probably create an exchange-traded product so that we can benefit from some of this hype and make some money off the backs of the actual cryptocurrencies. And this is why these ETFs, this is part of the reason why these ETFs are going to exist. Subjective Views posting this from 21 Shares. Now, we know 21 Shares has already filed for an XRP ETF. I just wanted to play you guys this clip. I've got 2 clips here just to demonstrate what kind of demand we're looking at. Listen to this.
What is the criteria or decision-making process behind a firm like 21 Shares when it comes to deciding which cryptos to create an ETF product for? So as we've discussed, there are Bitcoin and ETH ETF products offered at 21 Shares. However, if I look at this chart, for example, this table shows the top 10 cryptos. And as you can see here that besides Tether and USDC, which are stablecoins, you've got Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Dogecoin, Tron, Cardano, Hyperliquid, Chainlink. When can we see ETF products for these other tokens, these other coins? Is there even a need for ETF products for, let's say, Solana or Dogecoin?
Of course, we're an ETF issuer. We provide access and we provide the tools for investors to get exposure. On top of that, obviously, we provide the education and the teach-ins for them to understand it. When it comes to the actual investment, obviously, they have to decide if they want to go in or not. How the decision process looks like, it really depends. Of course, there is client demand, so just the market wants to get exposure, which a lot of times we do see. Maybe internally we have a high conviction, and therefore we want to make sure we push a certain product or any other partnership that might lead us to launching an ETF. But after all, we're an ETF provider, and we want to make sure we provide the tools for institutional investors.
So what you're saying is once demand comes and there's regulatory approval, then you will look into creating a product once customers approach you and say, hey, make me a XYZ ETF.
Absolutely. That's obviously the best indication if we really have traditional investors asking for a certain asset. Of course, there's a lot of regulatory hurdles that we have to push through, but that's usually the best indication why we want to launch a product.
So they're looking at the demand before. I mean, they're gauging the market essentially and looking at what becomes probable based on market sentiment. So guys, with XRP, obviously there is a demand for that. I don't know if I'm going to actually play you guys this second clip, but there were 2 clips here from Subjective Views, just giving more insight. Not talking about XRP specifically, but more insight on ETFs based on cryptocurrency products. I want to follow with this though. All in Crypto saying XRP holders, this one's for you with XRP chart setting up for the next leg. I think this is what all of us have been waiting for, right? That next leg up, this was a prediction that he made back, I think it was back in May or June. And when we fast forward to today, we can see how much progress we've made, okay? Listen to this.
Nearly 2 years ago, we made loads and loads of videos warning people that XRP was setting up this pattern that we've been watching and ultimately likely to break out of it. And if we fast forward to where we are today, you can see that since we gave that price prediction down here, XRP is up substantially. In fact, if we look at it on a percentage basis, you can see today XRP is up nearly 400% from when we gave that price prediction. It's actually up over 400% for myself and many of you guys. Hopefully, certainly the individuals in the Patreon have done very well, and XRP as a percentage basis has been one of our best performers. But this pattern not only is still very much intact, but has actually triggered since we gave all those updates. And we've given updates since. I want to kind of look at its progression thus far and where we ultimately think it's heading. Where XRP is today on the kind of macro is really it's just ran into its all-time high, an area you would absolutely expect to serve as a key resistance level. It's very, very common when a chart approaches all-time highs that it actually pulls back in and around them, because it's just such a key level. We're going to really thicken this line up. And the interesting thing with this is that this could be setting up a cup and handle. I'll talk to you about that in just a second. But the sort of triangle pattern that we're looking at that gives us $19.27, you're progressing towards, you've just found all-time high resistance. The fact that you're pulling back in and around all-time highs, and it's in this kind of meek fashion, and on the smaller time frames, there's potential setup for a continuation, gives us the confidence that you're still on your way. Not only does the price confirm that in regards to direction, also what you're doing on the smaller time frames and how you're interacting with your key level of significance being your all-time high is telling, in fact, that you've got further upside to come. And we can also look at the broader market and where we think that's going, which we'll do in a second in the form of total 3 to give us that further confirmation. So this $19.27 pattern, that's the projection we get out of this sort of triangle, is very much still on track. I do believe you are going to get there, and I don't think it's going to.
The clip cuts there, unfortunately, $19.27, to me seems like, I think certain things have to happen for us to get up to $19. I really do. Let's take a look. I'm going to bring up the XRP chart here. Now, I've already analyzed this. I'm going to just show you guys what I have seen in here. And I'm just going to zoom into what we have actually seen on the XRP chart. I threw a Fibonacci on here earlier. As you're seeing the ascent for XRP now, we're coming back down on the 0.236. So hopefully we don't break back down below that. And my thought is we're going to form a base on there before that next move to the upside. But even at the top, okay, at the top of this fib, we're only looking at about $6.70, give or take, 673, 674, something like that. So somewhere in around there, and that would be the full 4.236. Okay, so 674, 673, that doesn't sound like $19, does it? How do we get there? What All In Crypto is suggesting is that we are probably going to see another huge move to the upside like we saw back in November. From November, that huge parabolic shift, guys. Okay, let me just get rid of some of this. This is on the chart from before. But what he's suggesting is we could see that huge parabolic shift, something like this. And if we were to take, and what I did do is I took the bars pattern there and just kind of threw it on just roughly here. What he's suggesting is that we could, in fact, make our way up. And how high would that actually get us? If I throw a Fibonacci here, let me just try this for a second. I'm just going to throw a Fib on there. And even if I throw a Fibonacci on that most recent move, that most recent consolidation, where it gets us, guys, is not even close to where the bars get us here. So what we're looking at over here for a high, well, let's talk about the fib first. If we do hit the 4.236, that would only get us to $9. And that's, a very popular prediction. He's saying $19, guys. This even brings us up to $16.05. So I don't know. Could we see $19.27 in the near future, or anywhere between $16 and $19 per coin? There still is a possibility, but I think more market factors are going to need to be super bullish. We're going to need super tailwinds for that to occur. Everything is building at the moment. That's just my opinion. And for more opinions on where I think the market's going to go midterm and long term, follow me at patreon.com/workingmoneychannel. And for those of you guys interested in helping support the channel, maybe in a different way, I am selling Working Money Channel merch. Link is in the description of the video. That's just my opinion, but I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.